everyone. Happy Sunday. We are live with Virtual Vegfest. And let's say thank you to Sun Warrior again because they are our presenting sponsor pretty much, I guess, of this month so that we can, you know, get a discount. Use Virtual Vegfest in all caps to get a 25% discount. The link is on our social media under the Sun Warrior photos. So you can do that. And thanks to Plant Based Network for being our not our sponsor, our partner in what we do. Sunday, just trying to get my words. Also, we have contests. If you go like the Virtual Veg Fest pages, Facebook and Instagram, you'll be entered to win a prize pack from Hodo Foods, Crafters Organics, or Follow Your Heart. And there's a Follow Your Heart video on our YouTube that you can go check out from Erin's prize that she won, so you can see what you can get, which is pretty cool. And of course, if you have any questions or comments, please put them in the little box and we'll make sure to answer them. We've got Jasper Wilkins today, and I know Jasper because he helps with the Plant-Based Network. It just all of a sudden Ronnie says, hey, Jasper's gonna help, he's international so and so, he does a lot, knows a lot of people. And I was like, okay, more people on the team, the better. So he's in England, which is pretty cool. So guess what? We've gone international, which, we've been in Canada, so we've already been international. And he's a really cool guy. He's in his mid-20s. He's traveled. He does marketing. He's an influencer. He's an environmentalist. He started this thing called In Focus, which he's going to share more about. And then we're going to bring him on because I'd rather than him tell you about him than, me tell you about him. So here we go. Hey, Jasper, welcome.
Hello, thank you for having me in that brief introduction.
You're welcome. So I'd love for you to share with people just who you are and the numerous things that you've done in a short time.
Yeah, so I guess my story starts as a teenager. I actually was very anxious and had various mental health issues and got addicted to an online game. And then after that experience, I became really interested in sustainability and humanitarian issues when I went to Ethiopia. So at the age of 19, I went to Ethiopia, the first time going abroad from England. And, it was quite a shock to the system and became very interested in trying to make a positive change. And since then, I've been to about 35 countries in the last 6 or 7 years and worked in countries such as Nepal, Thailand, Japan, Ethiopia, and the United States as well, focusing mostly on marketing and also working as a photographer quite a lot, but then also later creating my own organization. But generally, my work focuses on various aspects of campaigns and marketing.
No, that's awesome. 35 countries. What's your favorite?
I guess it's quite hard to say. I am from England, so I guess many people say England, but England's not my favorite. I think in terms of, the weather, the food, and the beauty, it's probably Thailand is probably one of them. But when I was in Ethiopia, I was just blown away by how friendly and, how passionate people were there. So I really loved my 3 months in Ethiopia working with children. But yeah, it's quite hard to say. I like different countries for different reasons.
Oh no, I understand. I backpacked through Europe when I was 24, so I visited I think 9 countries, and it was in a month. So it was I have my favorites and my least favorites, so I get it. And I was vegetarian then, so I did even though if I was vegan, they would be I would have been eating bread. So, but as vegetarian, I found enough food. But
Yeah, it's been really good to see how popular veganism's become, and traveling through these different countries, especially more rural communities. It's amazing to see that whether I'm in a rural community in Nepal or if I'm in London, there's vegetarian, vegan food for me, and it's really good to see the movement grow so fast.
oh, I know. Especially, in England, it's kind of always been amazing. It's a funny story. For back then, I was really wanting pretzels, and I was trying to find pretzels in London, and no one knew what a pretzel was until I got to Germany. But I was like, pretzels. There's these things, this and that, and they were like, oh, salt sticks, and I was like, those are pretzels.
Yeah, it's funny.
Yeah, so I found some salt sticks. They were salty. So, Jasper, you created like In Focus, and I would love for you to share more about like why and how and what that's all about.
Yeah, so when I was in my last year of university, I went to Nepal to work on issues about climate change and women's empowerment, and I really realized that there's a lack of communication about conservation and sustainability issues. So I created In Focus because I wanted to empower communities, scientists, marine biologists, like people really working in the field of conservation. And instead of me going to a community to tell a story, I think it's much more beneficial for the people that understand these stories to tell those stories themselves. So it's mostly focusing on photography and filmmaking, but other areas of campaigning and marketing as well. And I later did my own solo exhibition in London about one of the projects I was doing, and also had a book project. But generally, I've interviewed about 25 influencers, photographers, and marine biologists that all do work within conservation. But yeah, it was just built because I was really passionate about trying to empower other people, tell stories, and because I'm an Olympus ambassador, so I work for Olympus on the side. I do exhibitions and workshops and teaching people about communication. So I thought it'd be a perfect mix to try and combine my passion and interest in photography and filmmaking with empowering other people as well. And more recently, I've realized that I'm really passionate about education and giving lectures and workshops. And that's the route I'm trying to go more down now, is really trying to empower people instead of doing everything myself. It's when you work with a community or work with especially young people, I think there's so much change and so much positive impact that can be had.
I agree with you 100%. It's planting those seeds with the people who are younger that you really can make a difference, because I mean they'll go home and be like, this is what I learned today, and their parents would be like, what? But sometimes it takes them getting out of the house, but you've
Uh,
planted that seed in a young mind.
yeah, exactly. And I love working with children because when I went to Ethiopia, so the first time I was abroad, I met a young girl that changed my outlook on many things. And so I was in Ethiopia in 2013, and in 2014 I was working in the United States in Colorado in a camp, a kids camp there, and it was quite interesting and in some ways to go from Ethiopia, which is a very impoverished area, to United States in this quite wealthy camp. And the thing that I realized is that kids anywhere in the world, need the same sort of support and things. It doesn't necessarily matter how much money you have. You just need that sort of support wherever you are in the world.
That's true. I mean, kids are kids no matter where they grow up. It's just a matter of what their surroundings are. But love and support are necessary no matter who or what you are around the world.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so just so to flip back, when you say Olympus, I just want everyone to know that I get it, but it's photography. So it's so people know like you're an ambassador for them and you take photographs, and you can see that on your Instagram and elsewhere, right?
Yeah, so I don't do the photography as much anymore because I've started to focus more on digital marketing and building websites and campaigns and everything to do with the online world. But photography is really how I got started in this field because I would just go to a community or a city and take photographs, and then that's how I understood the area. But yeah, as a Olympus ambassador, I do various workshops and teach people about photography and filmmaking. But essentially, just an ambassador for the camera company, which is from Japan. And there's about 10 or 15 of us in the UK.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously Olympus is an international company, so they have these ambassadors all over the world. My photography is always focused on areas about humanitarian issues and also more recently about sustainability. because climate change is a massive issue that's going to affect billions of people in the future. So that's really where my focus has switched to.
Can you tell us more about that? Because I want to get more people to think about the planet and climate change. I want it to be as juicy of a subject as food,
Yeah,
because it's as important, if not more important, of a subject than food. And food, because we do the social media and plant based network, is that people gravitate towards the food picture or to information about food, either positive or negative. It could go either way. But the climate and the planet, tell us more about what you're doing because it's so important.
yeah. I think in regards to food, it's one of the world's most enjoyable things. People have to do it pretty much every day, and people really enjoy it because it's a social thing and a cultural thing. And a lot of traditions go back to what we eat. And in reality, what we eat is a massive um, part of climate change because the way we produce food now is not sustainable. But the main things that I've been focusing on is, just really working on storytelling and how to transfer my skills in digital marketing to like an online presence. So I think, obviously, because of how popular veganism and the plant-based diet has become, hopefully that will have a positive impact. But we're running out of time essentially because it's a really pressing issue. Um, and yeah, I think in terms of food and climate change, it's really hard because climate change is more about statistics and science, and people can't necessarily connect with that directly. If you see a photograph of a person or food or whatever, it's very simple in what it does and how it makes people feel. But with climate change, it's something that we can't necessarily see all of the time, or at least up until recently, I would say, because climate change is becoming more apparent all over the world. There's various issues that have been shown on the news, but in reality, it's the developing countries that are most impacted at the moment, the people that contribute the least to climate change. And I think it's all about trying to combine the communications, the science, the policies, and the government. Obviously, it's quite a challenging time in general because of COVID, but then there's various other issues on the back burner that really need to be focused on as well.
Yes. the This country, right, in the United States, we've seen some, the wildfires, the hurricanes, the flooding, the droughts, because I'm pretty sure the Northeast is in a drought at the moment. And each year it seems to get obviously worse and worse. We went over, we name our hurricanes, right? We made it through A through Z, and I think made it to at least B on the Greek alphabet. I don't
Mm,
think in my lifetime I've ever seen us go through all the names,
mm.
and it's shocking. So over in England, over in the UK, over in Europe, what are what is what are you seeing in regards to climate change and your climate?
Yeah, so in regards to what we're seeing, obviously with the news and social media, people are so much more aware now. But that's separate to obviously what we're seeing directly. The great thing about social media and the internet in general is that we can access news from all over the world now, and we can access information that's not biased and that can show us really what is happening. But in regards to the specific things um, that are happening around the UK and Europe, obviously things with overfishing and a lot of plastic waste. And yeah, I think climate change is something that people don't really care about, or at least in the past, because we didn't have a face to it. But now more and more we have people like Leonardo DiCaprio, David Attenborough, Greta Thunberg, and people that are becoming ambassadors and trying to move the movement in the right direction. And it's all about a collaboration, and that's really important. But at the same time, you really need policy and big companies to change what they're doing as well. But yeah, I think compared to a lot of countries like the United States, for example, I wouldn't say there is too many specific instances in the UK in regards to climate change, except for obviously the change in temperature, and there's been random weather cycles recently. Like just a few days ago, it was really hot, and now it's raining a lot in the UK. And yeah, I think people really have to see something to understand a lot of the time. So I'm hoping that as this younger generation grows up and is more aware because of the increased amount of information, I hope that they really um, change the way of what we consume and how we consume it.
Yeah, I hope so too, because there won't be a planet for their kids, or even possibly for them, if we
Yeah,
don't institute some changes and do better.
exactly. Yeah, it's you know, I think a simple way that we can show people is just imagining a world where we don't have, animals that they care about, because it's hard enough trying to make people care about whales and sea turtles. Never mind, the pigs and the other farm animals that are exploited in the billions. So I think when you show people that obviously a pig and a dog are very similar in regards to their intelligence and their way that they can express themselves and how they can communicate with each other. It's just our view on what is important. And I really hope and believe that that is changing, and we start to realize that we need to change.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. I mean, pigs and dogs are, pigs are smarter than dogs. They're adorable, whether you want to believe it or not. They're not dirty. They only like to roll in the mud because they want to stay cool. It's not because they want to be dirty. Once I bonded with a pig, not too like a few years ago, and it was the first time that I actually was like rubbing bellies. I mean, I've met pigs, I've pet them, but this was the first time that this one was like, he was just adorable. And you're
Mm,
like, oh, he's been at my house. He's been in my yard. He met my dogs, So,
uh,
it's one of those things where I mean, I already had the connection, but to get that connection, his name is Kevin. Kevin. So I fed him a lot of watermelon. His belly bloated. But he was at one of our events here in North Carolina at our vegan mac and cheese event. And a friend's husband who is not vegan came to the event and met Kevin, and didn't want to eat pork anymore because he put it together.
mm,
Like, here's what I'm eating. Look how
yeah,
cute this pig is. Look how friendly this pig is. Yeah.
mm,
that's
yeah,
that's the way it is.
yeah. You did get a lot of positive reactions, but for example, I joined TikTok about 4 months ago now, and I'm nearly on 20,000 followers. And I post about my lifestyle and travel and photography and what I eat. And the videos that get a lot of comments, sometimes thousands of comments, are the videos where I talk about pigs, for example, and showing people that, how intelligent, how sentient, and, how nice they are. If, if people give an animal a name, it sort of normalizes it in regards to how people see it as a being, because other humans have names. And yeah, I just think it's quite weird actually why I went vegetarian originally. It was because I was watching Peppa Pig, which is like a kids' TV show, and the first time in my life I realized subconsciously that I was eating pig, I was eating Peppa Pig, and since then I haven't eaten. That was when I was 17 years old. And I think when people make those small connections, the more you realize these little things, I think the more chance um, it's going to change you in a positive way.
That's a cute story.
Yeah,
But it
pretty
happens to
random.
a lot. I think Ron just posted something about, I didn't read the whole thing, but Ron is with Plant Based Network. He just posted something about his mom telling him that something in the fridge was pig's blood to make
Mm,
like a traditional dish.
mm,
And she'd never referred to it as pig's blood before. And
mhm.
it just kind of, I guess it just kind of hit him. I mean, really, hey mom, what's that in the fridge? Oh, it's pig's blood. What?
Yeah, it's quite a, you know, these actions and what we consume gets normalized,
Yeah.
but I don't necessarily think they should be, or they shouldn't be celebrated in a way.
Right. It's really it's harder to get the support for the farm animals than it is for cats and dogs.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know.
But I was in South Korea at the end of last year, and I was working on some dog meat issues there. And in the West, generally, we really care about dogs, and they're almost family members. But in South Korea, they also have dogs, and there's a lot, especially the younger generation with dogs, and it's the younger people that don't agree with eating dog meat. It's more of a tradition, and it's the same in Thailand. I was working in Thailand where I did a TEDx speech, and I did an article about shark fin because I was just shocked to see how many restaurants in Chinatown in Thailand had shark fin. Then I did a lot of research with the internet and found that Thailand was the biggest exporter of shark fin. But that as well is becoming less common because when people are aware of the practices and what happens in the industry, they hopefully realize that this isn't ethical or sustainable. Um, and when you actually realize that millions of sharks die each year because of fishing,
Yep.
it's just ridiculous. It's an indirect impact of what we're consuming, which is fishing.
Yeah, because in order to get the fin, you
Yeah,
eliminate the shark,
yeah, exactly. And
right? Yeah.
a lot of people are against it. And I think if you're against a shark being killed, then I think you should also be against, you know, fish being killed because fish are essentially in the ecosystem of the ocean. And you know, there's millions and millions of sharks, whales, dolphins, sea turtles that get killed because of bycatch.
Yes. To give people an idea, because we don't have a visual, but what happens is they throw out this really, 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 like really, really, really big net, and they cast it out into the ocean. I mean, think really, really big, like so big that you can, as a human, walk on it when it's full. That big, right? They cast it out into the ocean to get fish, but they don't only catch fish in that huge net. They catch sea turtles, they catch sharks, they catch dolphins, they catch, and then that becomes bycatch, and they filter through this humongous amount of seafood, and they don't want the extra. So do you know what they do, like with the extra, like who they like what animal they feed that to?
Not specifically, I guess it depends on the country. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
they feed it to cows, vegetarian cows. Because when there's a byproduct of an industry, you want to make money off of it, right? I mean, that's so American. So I mean, you want to make money off of it, and they figured out that they could sell that to that industry, to the bovine industry, and they can take seafood and they can feed it to cows, even though cows are natural vegetarians. So therefore, when you're eating processed factory farmed cows, they're not necessarily full vegetarian anymore. They've been fed a diet that's not their typical diet. And that's just,
Mm.
that's just an offspring of fishing. Because,
Yeah, and for me, animal agriculture is one of the main areas I focus on because it touches upon, my three main passions, which is animals itself, then also the environment and also health as well. Because veganism or plant-based diet isn't the only solution. Obviously we've got problems with smoking and various types of addiction and lack of exercise and stuff like that. But I think generally the people I've met that have been vegan or plant-based, they've generally generally being more active and trying to advocate and trying to live by a healthier lifestyle in general as well. And I think sometimes people seem to think that vegans see themselves as perfect and that they judge other people, but I think that isn't really a sustainable way of doing it. I think it's more about having these conversations and really trying to understand both sides of things because no one's perfect. We're just humans, and you know most actions we do are quite bad in some way or the other. But I think it's just about trying to have the most conscious decisions in your life as you can.
It does. It's one thing that Gene Bauer says, Gene Bauer of Farm Sanctuary. He says to find common ground and then start your conversation from there.
Mm,
Because we all have common ground. We all can relate on something or something.
mm,
And and when you find that common ground, you can start the conversation and have one civil conversation.
mm.
And you never know what will come from that.
Yeah, exactly. And in the past, when I was addicted to this online game and didn't leave the house, all I would eat is McDonald's chicken nuggets and fast food all the time. I wouldn't eat any vegetables. I wouldn't really drink water. So I understand what it's like to be different. And I think when you understand how it feels, I think it's a lot easier to have empathy and understanding for other people as well.
That's true because it's one thing that I write often on Plant Based Network as a reply to people is, people are in their journey, wherever their journey is, and
Yeah.
that most of us have been there. There's very few of us that were born into eating vegan or eating plant based at
Mm,
some point, and pretty much every person who's made the decision to go plant based and or vegan says they wish they did it sooner.
yeah.
So I mean, it's okay to have a journey. It's okay to have a path, and it's interesting. What game was it?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the main things I've learned from the travels and the different types of work that I've done is, trying to adapt to different backgrounds and different types of people because, we need to get to this solution as quickly as possible, and we need to get as many people on board as we can to do that, and various types of activism or outreach works.
Right, and that brings us to your marketing side.
Yeah, so I guess I got involved in marketing through the photography that I did. I When I came back from Ethiopia, I was very interested in humanitarian issues, and I just sent out lots of emails and tried to get random types of experience. And one of the first sort of internships that I had was working on humanitarian issues for an organization from the UK. And I think I was just very interested in using technology um, to try and promote the causes that I was interested in. And I've been doing it now for about 7 or 8 years, and I do video editing, I do website building, do social media, I do a bit of design and graphics and photography and filmmaking, organizing events, and it led me to last year I was working for a big plant-based food company in the UK um, called V Bites Foods, and with a celebrity. So I moved to the north of England, but then I also did quite a lot of journalism, and I guess that's a form of marketing in a way because I was working in Japan doing reviews for tourists about different places to visit in Japan. And then more recently, I was in Hong Kong working for a plant-based food company and campaign there that's launching in the UK soon. And yeah, various other types of marketing jobs over the last few years. But I think it all comes from understanding that technology is the future, and especially in times like now where pretty much all work has moved online. We really need to focus on ways to promote these positive and good causes through the internet.
Yeah, it's never been more clear than when a pandemic strikes the world.
Yeah, and obviously, I think I read recently that 75% of new viruses that are introduced to the world come from exploiting animals. So when we have this relationship with nature, which is exploitative, and as you was talking about earlier with the fishing, and how we're destroying 90% of the Amazon rainforest to breed cattle, this isn't sustainable, and it's not good for the animals. It's not good for humans' health, and it's obviously not good for the environment either. So I think the more we pull from nature and exploit it, obviously the more problems we're going to have, and coronavirus is a manifestation of that. If we didn't consume animals as a collective species, then things like swine flu, bird flu, and other viruses wouldn't be transmitted to us. I think we have to try and aim towards a more symbiotic relationship with nature, but it's easier said than done.
It is. I mean, it's kind of like I believe that if you don't do the right thing in your life, that you'll keep getting like kind of punched or pushed or kicked, right?
Mm.
And obviously you start with like a little push, and then it starts with like a punch, then it starts with like a kick, and then it's like things will just be pounding on you to like you need to make changes. So here we are with like our planet and survival, and it's like, okay, so here we threw out these viruses. They weren't really that deadly at you. All right, that
Mm.
didn't work. So let's throw one that is really deadly at you, and see. Let's see what you do. Let's see what you do as a species.
And
So
there has been many good things that have come from the situation, I believe. Um, but yeah, it's just a matter of time until something like this happens. And scientists believe that you know these could continue to happen if we don't change what we consume and how we consume it as well. So I think it's really urgent that we do make a collective change. And good things are happening. With different types of technology. I just read a few days ago that there's a hydrogen airplane or something that's going to be developed, and yeah, I'm quite optimistic, I guess, in regards to the future because I have to be. Hopefully, I'll be alive for a lot longer to see if we go down this path or go down this one. But I'm just trying to have a positive impact where I can.
and you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
You're
Always
welcome.
trying to improve.
Well, I mean, that's all it is. I mean, you just kind of go through life and you ebb and flow, and you figure out your path, and then you follow it, and then you move off of it or on it or whatever happens.
Yeah.
But your path is one of being conscientious and caring,
Mm.
right? Because like you said, it's not about Jasper. It's about the planet, the animals, and health, and the health of not just you, but the health of everybody.
Yeah. And there's a quote I think that says, "My life is my message," and I really believe that for myself because what I do and how I act, I'm trying to coincide with you know who I am.
Well, I'm glad that Ronnie brought you on board to the Plant Based Network so that and that we were able to take time to get to know one another outside of just what do you want to do? Do you want to do this? What is this? How does this look? Type moments, right? Or like 2 hour meetings over Skype or right or Zoom. So I
Yeah.
mean I really really appreciate because I mean you're on this other side of the world and I would love to travel and be there again, but they won't let us.
Yeah. I think coronavirus has changed the world, and short term we can't travel, and also long term we don't know what's going to happen yet with international travel. Um, so yeah, it's a interesting world. I think in many ways it's probably one of the most challenging and interesting of throughout the whole of history. In terms of um, the opportunities that we have, the technology that's accessible to us, and the healthcare and all of that side of things as well.
So I have one question about over in England. We're hearing over here that there's an uptick in your cases with coronavirus.
Yeah,
How are things going?
yeah. I think currently, I think that today there was about 18 deaths, if I remember correctly, and a lot of people in the UK have been annoyed or upset about the decisions in regards to lockdown. Um, but that's politics, and that's another story. Um, but yeah, I think it's slowly increasing at the moment. We were on a lockdown for about 3 months, but it wasn't too severe. It was you know a lot of things were closed. Obviously pubs in England, people love going to pubs and going for drinks. So there's a lot of men, middle-aged men that love watching football that are currently quite upset about not being able to go to the pub. Um, and there's a new lockdown that's starting, and there's talks about curfews and other stuff. But I guess at the moment everything is transient, and we don't necessarily know what's happening next week. Never mind in a few months. So I think it depends on the number of deaths and cases. But in general, it is quite a anxious time, I guess, for everyone. And that's not to mention the United States. The US is a whole other level, I guess, of confusion in regards to what's happening with coronavirus.
I choose to believe in science.
Yeah.
As science when I was growing up wasn't debatable,
Mm.
somehow it's become debatable. I'm not sure how that happens, but science is real and it morphs and changes as well, but that's only because they learn new things that are applicable to what's going on, and then we should follow the science. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I always end these talks with talking about wearing a mask. So, it's because it's
Yeah.
important.
And spending a lot of time in Asia, people have been wearing masks for quite a few years already. But more in regards to pollution. So when I was actually in Hong Kong when actually I was in Thailand. I was living with elephants in Thailand when I first heard about coronavirus, and then I went to Hong Kong, and it started to develop there, um, and everyone was wearing masks and everyone is being very careful. But in England, I think in some ways we're more individualistic, like in regards to we want to do things our own way, and people haven't been wearing masks in some cases. And just recently, I think more and more people have started to because of there's lots of signs everywhere, and there's places you need to wear a mask to be able to get in. So I think people are taking it more seriously now. But at the start, people weren't wearing masks at all.
Yeah, it's a different world because I know Asia. This was like, okay, we wear masks. They already understood to do that, and
Mm,
also the discipline to take care of one another is more
mm,
prevalent than, like you said, the more individualistic type society or attitudes that you're dealing with over there, we're dealing with over here,
mm,
right? So it's hard. It's really difficult, especially when you've had people who've gotten the virus,
mm,
who have been long haulers from the virus, have died from the virus. You know,
mm,
it certainly has had an impact. I don't need to have those things happen for me to understand that this is serious. I'm not one of those people, but most human beings need to be impacted in order to actually believe something is real or true, or they should really do something about it.
yeah.
This is just one of those things that it's not a hoax. it's
Mm,
real. It's all over the world. How could we all get together and make something
yeah.
up all over the world?
Yeah, generally I've not spoken about it too much just because it's such a complex issue, and there's yeah, it's pretty confusing either way.
Right. No, no problem. So Jasper, if people wanted to find you, follow you, get in touch with you, how would they do it?
So I'm pretty active on social media. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. My name is Jasper Wilkins on all of those platforms. And I've got my own website, so jasperwilkins.com. But generally, you can see me on the Plant-Based Network. I'm posting a lot of things on there, and also do quite a few articles as well for different organizations. Um, so yeah, that's where you can find me.
No, that
Or alternatively, you can find me in England. Currently in Norwich.
that's right. You just moved. Well, thank you so much for joining us today and letting me get to know you better, and for all your work with Plant Based Network and everything, to try and save the planet and the world. And you're pretty much the future.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about education, isn't it? And trying to understand what people actually need. And I think especially, people that were born in 2000, they're hopefully going to be the most intelligent people ever alive because of, the technology that's available to them. And yeah, I'm just trying to have a positive impact wherever I go.
Well, you keep doing that because you're doing a great job. I mean, you're more well traveled than most people will in their lifetime. So,
Yeah, I've been really fortunate to be able to find these opportunities, and started off with volunteering in different countries, but then developed into internships and paid work as well. And I was actually starting to write a book about that because it was quite a big jump for me to go from playing an online game and not being able to leave the house to obviously being thrown into a small community in Ethiopia. And I'm just trying to inspire people about how they can find opportunity as well because every job I've ever had um, has been through the internet pretty much because the internet is such a useful tool, especially places like LinkedIn. You can find so many opportunities, and Google is infinite.
yes, exactly. If you saw that message from Susan saying thank you to both of us. Well, thank you, Susan, another one of our teammates. So this was awesome. Thank you for spending your Sunday after
No, no worries.
moving and in the rain and lockdown and COVID and everything.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And anyone out there that wants to contact me about plant-based lifestyle or sustainability, then feel free to get in touch.
Yeah, please do, and you can do that. Oh, let's do it's
So
infocusorg
yeah, infocusorg.com.
.com. Put it in the notes, and there it goes. I was like, I almost forgot about your website. The other thing that you do was like when we started with that. Well, thank you. Have a great rest of your night, or go to sleep. And I'm going to you know do some more work. And let me see. Let me tell everybody next week. I have no idea. I never know what's happening the following week. Yeah. Okay. I
Yeah,
have it up. All right. So have
great.
a great night, Jasper.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
hon. Bye. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching another virtual Vegfest live. I really appreciate Jasper spending his time because it's 5 hours later in the UK. And let's see, next week on the 1st, which is Thursday, October 1st, it's October. That's crazy. Cooking demo with Ajoya. She is out of Charlotte, North Carolina, which would be really cool. And then Afton from the Pig Preserve is on Saturday. Both talks at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So make sure you tune in for those. And of course, we'll post that information on Monday. Remember our contests. And of course, how I close, I got my mask. Wear a mask, please. We have custom ones. Over your nose. Oops, there we go. Over your nose, under your chin. That's it. See, I can still talk. You can still hear me. My glasses are going to fog up. But please wear your mask and make sure you wear it correctly because, it doesn't work if you don't. You're trying to protect other people and yourself from getting the virus. Incredibly important. Social distance, wash your hands, stay 6 feet apart at least if you can. But definitely wear your mask no matter where you are because the only way that we'll get back to somewhat normal of society is if we wear our masks just like they do in Asia without any issues whatsoever. I have a friend here in North Carolina who wears a mask when she gets the flu or she gets sick. You know what? No one in her family has ever gotten sick, and she's been doing it for years. She made her own. So she was so used to this. When we had to wear a mask now, she totally understood the benefit of it. And of course, it's an election year. It's getting closer. With each week that we do this, it's going to be October, and the election is November 3rd in the United States. Please consider being a poll worker. And you know what? If you don't want to work, please vote. Absentee voting already happening. North Carolina, you can order your ballot. You know what? You don't feel comfortable? Early vote. You can do that. Obviously, wear your mask. Just vote. There's never been a more important time in this country in any election than this one. So vote, vote, vote. And I will see you next week on Thursday at 4 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, and then on Saturday. Pretty excited to have another cooking down, but they're always fun, even though we can't eat the food. So I will see you soon. Have a great rest of your weekend. Bye.